What words of advice or wisdom would you give 16-year-old Michelle?
Number 1, I wish I was 20 years younger, but, um, I would invest in myself and continuously learning. Um, Never pass up an opportunity to get involved on a project, take on more work, just to build out your knowledge base and just to keep on learning and gaining skills that you can use in the future, even if you don't need them immediately. Um, Ask for feedback, positive or negative, from my leadership, my manager, and then act on it. Because 9 times out of 10, that individual is looking out for you and they want you to be a better version of yourself. So take that constructive criticism and run with it, which leads into embracing failure. Don't be afraid to fail because you fail a lot of times before you actually succeed. And failure is just a part of being successful. And then lastly, just prioritize work life balance. My younger days, I probably could have done a little bit better with that. And as I've gotten older, I've realized the importance of that. So just be mindful of your work life and your home life and keep that balance and you'll be in a good position.
What's the one piece of advice you would give 25, 26-year-old Kirk looking back if you could go meet him and give him any advice? What would you say?
Oh, I'd absolutely try to convince that young guy to choose hard first.
Hmm,
You can live life hard, easy, or easy, hard. If you live life easy, hard, you're like, oh, you're kind of avoiding things. You're like, oh, well, I hope things work out. And maybe you're taking it easy with your health, easy with your exercise, easy with your education. And if you take it easy in these things, it's going to get harder later. But if you
hmm,
choose hard first, like, I'm going to really establish some disciplines around my physical fitness. I'm going to establish some disciplines around what I eat, what I drink. I'm going to
hmm,
establish some disciplines about my learning and education. I'm going to pay a price up front, right? Those things make it easier later, right? So
hmm,
you're gonna experience hard easy. If you go easy first, it's going to be harder later. If I neglect my health for 40 years, it's going to be really hard to recover from that. If I
hmm,
invest in my health and set patterns for my health, same thing with my education. If I just avoid learning and avoid growth and avoid college and avoid certifications and I go, right?
hmm,
But if I invest in my education and set a pattern for growth and development, right? More opportunities exist. And the more I invest in my growth, the more opportunities and doors and resources and choices I have. So hard, easy, easy, hard. I would convince young Kirk to choose hard. The other thing that comes with choosing hard is when you do like a hard, I'm not talking about hard things that happen to us. I'm talking about choosing
mhm,
a hard thing. And Andy Frisella in his book 75 Hard says, it's if we really are honest with ourselves, it's right after we chose and did and accomplished something hard that we feel the best about ourselves. And so
hmm,
that self-confidence that I lacked so much growing up because I didn't have the confidence for sports, I didn't think I was enough, I didn't think I could do that, I wasn't as good as this person. Instead of just jumping in there and being as good as I could, right? So
hmm.
when we choose hard things and we do it, our confidence goes up, our shoulders go back, and we feel more capable. The brain research on this is overwhelming as well. The brain research says that when we do hard things, we establish patterns in our brains, physical changes in our brains that teach us that we can do hard things. If we avoid hard things and we quit when things get hard, our brain also creates a pattern for that. Jordan
Wow.
Peterson talks about this with lobsters in his book, The 12 Rules of Life or whatever. So he really talks about some of this research and
Hmm.
the chemicals in our brains, that kind of thing. It's really fascinating stuff. So choose hard. I'd tell that guy, Kirk, choose hard sooner. Do it now.
What advice or encouragement or what would you say to 22-year-old Patricia if you could hit pause, see her face to face, and tell her anything? What would it be?
Do you know what? I am a little bit jealous of the 22-year-old Patricia because she was a party girl. She had a lot of fun in that final year of master's actually degree. There was a lot of hard work, but there was also good times, travel, and like I said, good partying. So you know, um, nice to look back and reminiscent. But great question there. What would I say? I would say. Um, you know what, don't wait. And we talked about taking, risk and grabbing opportunities when they present themselves. I think the only thing that perhaps I didn't have the courage to do is progress things faster. it was kind of, still a little bit of hesitancy in me at that point in time to sort of see, well, there were so many avenues, right? You're just about to finish university, graduate in modern languages, and then, things start to open up, and you might have done a couple of customer service jobs, or be exposed to maybe some career opportunities. But, you know, uh, ultimately, I think it's about having the courage, to just go for it. And I think if I look back, and maybe this is going back to that kind of having great time partying, that was maybe a little bit of a, sort of a nice little distraction, right, on the side before facing these bigger decisions, and maybe taking a little bit longer to kind of, sort of make a decision as for where to go next. And I'll give you the analogy of this in later stages as well. I stayed with one organization for 9 years. And if I look back now, I think, well, why did I stay with them for 9 years? At some point, to progress further into kind of SVP role, I would literally have to wait for someone to move on, or which those movements were close to none. Not happening. And actually, if I look back, I'm thinking, was it feeling comfortable? Was it just not really having the guts to say, hey, yes, this is comfortable, this is great, right? A great role, great team, but what's next? So if I look back at those kind of times, I'd say, yeah, just make those decisions faster, because I think you get to a certain age and certain point where you think, wow, I wish I tried more. Wow, I wish I kind of progressed these things faster, because at this stage I would have X, Y, and Z experiences, right? And maybe it's just me, super kind of, passionate about moving forward, and really quickly deciding what's for me, what's not for me. And that's where I'm heading with this, that I think as a sort of young professional, young person, it's easy to kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure, and sort of, yeah, maybe delay some of the important decisions. But I would just say, hey, Patricia, go for it, have fun. Again, what's the worst that can happen, right? Who knows? You might have fun in the process, learn something, and ultimately decide what it is that you love, and get to something you're really passionate about much sooner. I think that's ultimately, the message here. I love where I am today. I love what I do. I think I've got a ton of learning in my current role. Of course, I'm not saying, this is something I want to do forever. Within sort of next 2, 3, 4 years, I want to taste hopefully something bigger and better. But it's really getting faster to that point of, okay, I'm passionate about this. I'm still learning, right? I'm still enjoying what I do, and most importantly, I'm bringing fantastic team and fantastic people on board with me.
One question I have for you that I want to send off the episode with: if you could give young Jessica any advice based on what now Jessica has learned throughout her career and life, in paragraph, 60 seconds or less, what advice would you give young Jessica?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what the advice would be, and my boss, if she watches this, will totally know what I'm talking about. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Be vocal. And twofold of that is, throughout your career, your life is going to change, and the needs that you have are going to change as well. You're going to have different seasons of life where you're going to need different things from different people. And if your company wants to retain an individual for a long amount of time, having the transparent conversations about what you need when is very important. So just don't be afraid to vocalize what you need to your leaders.
What advice would you give younger Thomas that you wish you would have had when you were younger Thomas?
It's funny because it ties very closely into this, and that is accept innovation and really accept technology and the use of technology. I remember when a lot of this stuff came up in my career early on, it was, oh, this is something I have to learn. Well, I've got to take this phishing training. I've got to take this, whatever is a training the organization wants me to take. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm engaged now. And I look, okay, how do I further the business, the operations that I run using technology? And I look back at my career and I look back at younger me, and it was, technology is necessary. And now I look at it and I say, technology is exciting. Technology is an opportunity. Technology is a way to differentiate. Technology is a way to attract and advance the employees and all the different areas that we impact. And so for me, I thought about that question. It's funny because it kept tying back to that. And it's ironically what we're talking about. And well, technology's technology. I've got to use these systems. Now it's, oh my God, technology is exciting. I can make my people better. I can advance our company. I can do so much more for myself, even family. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can utilize it and the things that you can do. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And it's funny because it does tie back to this. And early on, it was kind of the necessary, I got to use it. Now it's, I want to use it. How do I use it? And how does it make things better? So that's the biggest thing that I would say.
What is the advice or nuggets of wisdom that you would tell younger Tony if you had that opportunity?
The one advice that I would share is to not take life too seriously. When we first start out, we feel we have to be perfect or else we can't get that job or we can't get promoted. I would advise everybody to not worry about things too seriously, but to keep learning. I felt I was not the education type most of my whole career, but I was able to travel to 27 countries and 42 states for work. And so somebody did see something in me, even though I didn't have my bachelor's. I ended up getting my bachelor's when I turned 50 with a GPA of 3.72. And I thought I could never actually go to college and be successful. I barely passed high school. So the real benefit I feel my 20 to 30-year-old self would give myself is don't think and don't overthink and don't take things too seriously. Just keep learning.
If you could turn back time and meet younger Dan, what advice, what wisdom would you tell younger Dan for him to take forward into his own future?
I have two girls, 14 and 16, two high school girls. And so the advice that I would give the younger version of me is the advice that I try to give them. Not that I always took the advice when I was their age, but I hope they do a better job than I did. Find your passion. Pick something that you love, that you will do anything in the world to see it succeed. And an exercise that we did, me and my girls, when they were babies, probably maybe 4 and 6, something like that, is we took a shovel into the backyard, and I had them at 4 and 6. They could barely write, but they had to write a list of everything that anyone has ever told them they couldn't do. You're a girl, you can't play sports. You're too short, you can't run fast enough. You'll never be able to you'll never be the best writer, or you'll never be able to sing on Broadway. The world can be very good at crushing your soul, and it can start young. And so what we did is we took those lists of what the world tells you can't do, we dug a hole in the ground and we buried the can'ts. And I never did that exercise, but if I had to roll back the clock to when I was that age, I would have done that. And we haven't yet had to unbury the can'ts because those girls know that they're buried. They're buried permanently. So find a passion, bury the can'ts. 2 lessons I would have given myself.
What is some wisdom, some words of wisdom, some advice that you would give your younger self if Rocky hit the rewind button? You could go talk to your younger self.
If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. That's probably the best advice. I got that from my now wife when we first met. And what it means is, don't be complacent in your job. Find a way to get out of your comfort zone. If you're on a help desk and you're only doing one thing and you're tired of it and you want a better position, go ask somebody in your network on LinkedIn, how can I be like you? Set up that meeting, go to the networking event, go work on yourself in one way or another to try and grow. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make you better is the growth, that being comfortable, being uncomfortable can really go farther. And yeah, I took a little too long to be complacent in my younger years. And yeah, figuring that out has been huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give younger Daniel that if you could turn back time, go meet younger Daniel, what advice would you give him?
I would say really follow. I'm trying to say this without it sounding like trite or too cheesy, but like, I think it's a really great sign if you always feel like you're learning. The moment you are not learning anymore, you're static, you're stagnant, and that's a warning sign. So I've always, and I think I'm proud that when I could look back over my career, and where I've come from, I really do believe I've followed my passions. I've followed sort of that desire to keep learning and keep improving. And sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where the topic that's given to us, or the job that's given to us, may not be, sometimes we have really exciting assignments, sometimes we don't. But I do believe that there's always an opportunity to find the hook in a subject that really interests you, the reason to keep diving into it. I think that's one thing I would say. And another is, I would tell myself, like, learn how to tell a good story, because the more I progress in my career, the more I realize that people tend not to remember facts, or just, they tend not to grasp that. But stories are memorable, and stories can change people's perceptions of things. There's a reason, I think, that some of the best life lessons I've gained have come from Pixar movies, because they tell such great stories, and they're not trying to lecture you. They're trying to give you a character driven story that allows you to learn more about yourself. And so I would say, like, and I keep trying to improve that factor, is like, really try to improve your storytelling ability, because that is what people hold on to. And it's what, it's contagious.
What is a piece of advice or comment or just nugget of wisdom you would share with younger Tim?
I would say enjoy your hair while you have it. But no, on a serious note, I would say be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes along the way. And that's something that you don't realize, I think, until you have some perspective in life and can kind of see the bigger picture. But, I feel like, I think this is true for a lot of people, we're our own worst critic. And when we think we did a bad job, other folks might not even think that we did a bad job. Or when we think we knocked it out of the park, other folks might not think that. So I guess I would say stay grounded, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I made a ton of mistakes. I still make a ton of mistakes in my life, and I like to give people a second chance as well. So I would say that, man, just be kind. Don't be super hard on yourself, and be kind, and enjoy the ride.
What advice or words of wisdom would you share with younger Nicole?
Sure. I would say I would value progress over perfection, right? Let's honor the moves in the right direction, and not, discard that if it's not completely perfect. If we wait for everything to be perfect, we're going to go nowhere, right? If we keep making incremental moves in the right direction, we're going to get there faster.
What is the words of wisdom or advice that you would give to younger Stephen?
For one, I would say be a good risk taker. And that means continue to dream, but figure ways to how you can accomplish those dreams one step at a time. And that takes, like I said, being a risk taker, but do everything, do anything. The things that you may not think that it's like, oh, it has any relevance. That's not part of back in my college days, it's not part of your curriculum. But outside of that, it's going to add to your toolbox. Whether I used to be a electrician apprentice, has no bearing, but it did, because now I know how electrical and connections and connectivity works. And, and I did plumbing too. So understanding how things put together. So no matter what you do, and I would tell my younger self, just take a risk. Just do it. Whatever the worst outcome, you just learn some more trivial information that you may not apply. But one day you will apply it. I guarantee it. So that's I think my best advice for my younger self.
What's the words of advice or wisdom you would share with younger Lisa?
Oh, wow. You're going to make me cry. Words of advice for younger Lisa. You are worthy of rest. Your latest project does not define you. The people around you care. and give them the opportunity to rise. You don't have to do it all.
What is one piece of advice or words of wisdom you would give younger Doug Raybolt?
So, the piece of advice I would give my younger self, and I've kind of done it, but I didn't do it the way that I would do it now. The advice I would give myself would be pursue your dreams and do it without hesitation. And that second clause is the part that I've been challenged by. I stayed in my sales career for far too long. I was already burnt out at age 42. And that's why I was more than willing to give up 2/3 of my income to make that change. So I was hesitant in actually pulling the trigger and making that move. In a sense, I've kind of done that same thing in some other aspects of my life. And so where my interests are, I've pursued them, but I've sometimes delayed. And so if anybody's familiar with Roman history, one of the generals was known as cunctator, which in Latin means the delayer. So I would challenge myself to not be a cunctator and actually pursue my dreams more rapidly than what I have. I would love to be doing this 15 years ago, like when I had a little bit more energy than I do today.
Yeah. What are the words of wisdom or advice you would give younger Kev if you could turn back time and go meet younger Kev? What are those words of wisdom or advice?
Oh man. If I knew about IT, I would have talked to someone. Or actually, I would have talked to myself when I worked in a restaurant to get started a lot sooner. So like I started in my 20s. If I knew about IT, I would have done it a lot earlier. I probably would be like a manager at this point or something. I don't know, right? So my advice to myself back in time would be, Kev, get into IT right now. Don't stay in restaurant. So that would be my advice to myself if I had to go back in time.
What about early career Kev, early IT career Kev?
Early IT career, Kev, would for me would be like, this job is not the best job in the world, but it's gonna get you experience. So keep doing it. Don't get upset. Don't get angry that the job isn't that great. But at the end of the day, it's experience you have on your resume. So disregard the hardships and just do your job, and it's gonna help you elevate yourself to the next job. That would be my advice for that, Kevin.
What is one piece of advice or words of wisdom you would share with younger George? That
younger
you wish you
George.
would have known then.
I was gonna say that guy was such a wild man. The one thing that I probably say is, hey, get involved, be involved, whether it's family, if it's work, if it's networking, get yourself in it, throw yourself in it fully. And again, don't forget about your family and friends. Go to their weddings, go to the stuff that you don't want to go to, but at the same time, throw yourself into work too, because it's what you love.
What is the advice or words of wisdom you would share with younger Joe that you think our audience would benefit from, that you wish you knew whenever that time was?
It's to ignore a lot of the advice that I was given. I think that probably sounds a little funny for me to say because we've just been spending time talking about like my career advice for people. And you're like, are you saying I should just ignore everything you said? But I think what I am saying is there is an awful lot of advice for people out there, and it's like highly contradictory. I'll give you one example as a woman. I hate this. Throughout my entire career, I have been told diametrically opposite things about how to be a woman in the workplace. On one hand, I've been told like, women aren't bossy, they're the boss. Step up, be aggressive, get your boss mode on, be the girl boss. Otherwise, you'll never get ahead. And on the other hand, we've got like HBR studies and all this other stuff that says actually when women lean into their EQ and act feminine, it's what's the expected behavior and they're rewarded for that. And that's going to help you more in the workplace. I mean, this is like opposite advice, completely opposite. Like you get this kind of stuff all the time in the workplace. So I wish I had ignored a lot of that and just focused on what it was that gave me confidence, me personally. My style, my assets, my ability to learn, my interests, etc. I think that would have been better.
What is one word of wisdom, piece of advice, what would you share with younger Nate that you think our audience would benefit from?
Yeah, I didn't properly prep for this question. As I read it here, there's two words that pop in my head, Rocky: grace and contentment. I have been such an enemy to myself
Mm.
throughout my career. You're not doing enough, Nate. You failed this. You're not good enough here. I have just kicked my own butt, and it just hasn't served anyone. It's held CX Accelerator back. It's held me back in my career at different critical moments where I needed to just give myself a break and just be kind to myself. I
Mm.
so wish that I had learned that sooner, and that careers do not go like this, Rocky. They do not. And this is normal and it's okay. And you've got to cut yourself a break, Nate. It's gonna be all right, bud. Gosh, I wish I could tell
Mm.
my 24-year-old self that. And the other one is just contentment. Like, have fun with this. It's a fun ride, dude. Like,
Yeah.
just love the things that you get to love. Like, this work is amazing. That most of the people you're getting to do it alongside are incredible people. Some of the organizations that I've gotten to serve are just awesome. And there should be some pride with that. And you know, I've not done enough to just relax, enjoy the stages that I'm in, and just be optimistic about the things that are coming in the future, even though it's not the path that I would have expected or selected. This thing with Metric Sherpa is a perfect example. I couldn't even have visualized what this is 3 years ago. Like, it just wouldn't even fall into my pattern of thought.
Mm.
And now that it's a real thing, as I said earlier, Rocky, like, I'm more excited and motivated about my career right now than I've ever been. But it's come from some hard-earned maturity that should have come a lot sooner.
Talk to younger Leslie. What words of wisdom, advice, or encouragement would you give younger Leslie?
You know, I have always been confident, hopeful person. I didn't really have a dark and scared time that I struggled through to get to a bright and light time. But I would tell myself that at the start of eWrite that the gifts and rewards of starting this company, I'd be like, girl, you don't even know how great it's going to be. That I would tell myself. I would say to myself, you think you know how the people you teach will affect you now, but you don't even know it's going to be 1,000 times better.
What words of wisdom or advice would you give to younger Sarah?
So, I don't want to let you down in my answer, but I honestly think it would go back to the point I made about just be yourself. Be yourself. Trust yourself. You don't have to try and be something you're not to be successful. You don't need to, try and fit into any certain mold. You can do it your way and it can all work out. So I think that would be the thing that I would most benefit from hearing, many, many years ago.
Matt, if you could connect with yourself years ago when you first started your career, what's some advice that you would give?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've thought about that one too much. I guess one would be like the hard work will be worth it. And there's going to be times in your career where you have to stay late or get there early, and don't look at that as, some sort of duty, but just look at it as an investment in yourself and in your career. Because I think that, as I look back, on my career, 10 years with Robert Half, it's a lot of those late nights and early mornings are where, you learn great lessons, you connect with great customers, and it's all been worth it over the years. So I think it's just a, work ethic. Like, you've got to grind in whatever career you're in, and it'll pay dividends later in your career. So
What is the words of advice or wisdom you would give younger Phil?
Be more confident in who you are, and really know that you know more than you think you do, and just be confident that you're making the right decision, even when it feels like it's completely wrong. So be okay with that. Be okay with that discomfort that comes with making a hard decision, and lean into it, but don't change anything.
What words of wisdom or advice would you give younger Matt?
I would tell myself to be more fearless. I did act without fear, and that's entitlement speaking as well. So by all means, know that I recognize that entitlement, and I operated without fear, and I could have taken it further. I could have achieved more if I had started earlier, if I had focused earlier. And so I think that's the other bit of advice. So be more fearless, but also start. You have to start. And I learned this in podcasting. This is my 4th podcast. And what you're building isn't just this engine that builds a machine every day, or builds an episode every week or month or quarter or year, whatever, however often you publish. You're building a backlog of content that is invaluable. As that content sits out there, it will continue to, it'll continue to be fed to models and LLMs, but also you will continue to see people that reach into that back catalog. You will find yourself reaching into that back catalog, looking for the wisdom that you've heard on your podcast. And I would say the same thing for businesses, any business or any initiative that you're doing. If you want to be a musician, start now, because the musicians of 10 years from now are already making the mistakes. They're already ahead of you making mistakes, and those mistakes are how you get to success. Those mistakes build the mountain up towards success or failure. I say there is a valley of failure that you can reach as well, but it really, if you give up, that's the only difference. If you make mistakes and give up, you have reached the valley of failure. And if you make mistakes and you go on and you learn from them and you innovate and change and grow further, eventually you will reach success.